everything that happened at the Japan Expo news, bombshell revelations, everything about the Dragon Ball Super manga, and how the expectations are for new projects. The world of Dragon Ball is still alive, prepared for this video. So hurry up and subscribe to the channel, leave your like, and activate the bell. Japan Expo News in 2025 consolidated itself as one of the biggest gatherings of fans of Japanese culture in the world, bringing a mix of emotion, nostalgia, and expectation for those who closely follow mangas, animes, and everything that involves the Japanese pop universe. This year carried a special meaning, as it was the second edition after the death of Akira Toriyama, and the space dedicated to Dragon Ball reflected both the physical absence of its creator and the lasting strength of his legacy. From early on, the corridors of the Parc des Expositions were crowded, and the fans' anxiety was palpable, mixing curiosity for the manga news and reverence for the tributes prepared to remember the master who transformed generations. Panels and lectures were organized to show not only Toriyama's work, but also how Toyotaro, the current author of Dragon Ball Super, carries this responsibility, explaining to the public what it is like to continue such an iconic work. During his speeches, Toyotaro spoke about the pressure of maintaining the essence of the story while imprinting his own vision, recalling moments when he worked directly with Toriyama and the importance of respecting every detail created by the master. Fans were able to see original drawings up close, unpublished sketches, and even some demonstrations of live art techniques, creating an atmosphere of closeness between creators and the audience that only Japan Expo can provide, and the one of 2025 stood out for its balance between memory and innovation. In the first years without Toriyama, the event still carried the weight of farewell, almost exclusively focused on honoring the creator and revisiting classic moments of the franchise, from Goku's first adventures to the arcs of Dragon Ball Z and Dragon Ball Super. In this edition, however, the tributes remained present, but came accompanied by announcements and discussions about the future of the work. Exclusive panels explored recent arcs of the manga, such as the battles of Granola and Moro, in addition to speculations about future stories and animated adaptations, showing that Dragon Ball is not just an affectionate memory, but a living and constantly evolving franchise. The Bandai stand, gigantic and carefully organized, presented a mix of collectibles, action figures, gashapons, and illustrations that spanned decades of Dragon Ball. Every detail seemed to reinforce the idea that, even after Toriyama's death, the passion for the work had not diminished. On the contrary, it grew, allowing fans of all ages to share experiences, memories, and discoveries. Among the most emotional moments, the highlight was the screening of a special video that combined classic scenes from Dragon Ball Z, recent excerpts from Dragon Ball Super, and images of Toriyama working in his studio. The ending of the video, with a simple message of thanks to the master, made the entire audience stand up in applause, and many fans could not hold back their emotions, reminding everyone that the work transcends paper and animation, becoming part of a global collective memory. Toyotaro's words, in this context, gained even more weight. He not only shared details of the creative process, but also revealed the care he takes in maintaining the integrity of the Dragon Ball universe, balancing respect for Toriyama's original vision with his own creativity. He explained that every narrative decision, every transformation, every visual detail is thought out so that the work continues faithful to its roots, but capable of expanding and reinventing itself. This approach brought confidence to fans, showing that Dragon Ball continues to be a solid cultural phenomenon, ready to cross new generations without losing the essence that Toriyama built. The impact of the Japan Expo in Paris of 2025 on the manga and the franchise was noticeable not only among the fans present, but also on social media and specialized media, which echoed every announcement, every tribute, and every speech by Toyotaro. The general feeling was one of continuity and hope. Even without the creator, Dragon Ball maintains its strength, its global appeal, and its ability to move and inspire. This edition proved that the franchise does not depend only on one person, but on an entire community of creators, fans, and all those who, in some way, helped transform Goku, Vegeta, and so many other characters into universal icons. The Japan Expo in Paris, therefore, fulfilled its role as a space for celebration, learning, and memory. Dragon Ball, as always, was the protagonist, uniting generations and reminding everyone that well-told stories continue to live, even when their authors depart. Every panel, every exhibition, every applause, and every tear were proof that Toriyama's legacy not only remains but expands through the hands of Toyotaro and the affection of fans from all corners of the world. creating an unbreakable bond between past, present, and future of the franchise. Since the Japan Expo of 2025 opened its gates in early July, the heart of pop culture fans beat faster. And not just because of the exuberant stands or the spectacular cosplays. Right at the cultural opening, what was felt was a strange mix of emptiness and gratitude. Emptiness for the absence of the creator, and gratitude for the work he left. In the corridors, fans exchanged memories of remarkable moments from their mangas and Super Saiyan invasions that would remain alive in memory. And, of course, the revelations about the manga were among the highlights. Even though they might seem timid in the face of absences, they carried emotional weight. Traditionally, Japan Expo usually brings exclusive previews of new arcs and teasers of the future of the franchise. In this edition, however, the tone was different. Something more reserved, more introspective. There were no big worldwide announcements of new volumes or unexpected extensions of Dragon Ball Super. Instead, there was a focus on the aesthetic preservation of the work, on the visual and narrative legacy that Toriyama built, and that silence, in itself, spoke volumes. The presence of Toyotaro, Kazuhiko Torishima, and Katsuyoshi Nakatsuru was more symbolic than informative. They brought with them the weight of history and the commitment to keep it alive. Toyotaro, especially, was one of the protagonists of this moment of transition. When asked by France Inter Radio, he fondly remembered Toriyama-sensei as a very kind person. Incredibly tolerant, a bit like an old sage, there was this rigor that I felt because I was afraid of disappointing him. He stated that what Toriyama taught him must be a legacy that I protect. Words loaded with respect and responsibility. Toyotaro made it clear that he does not see himself as the exclusive heir, but as part of a team that keeps this world alive. A point that strongly echoes in moments when fans despair while waiting for new stories. His stance reminded everyone that Dragon Ball does not belong to a single creator, but to a collaborative process between artists, editors, animators, and the very community of readers. On the other side, Torishima, a legendary figure for having discovered and shaped Toriyama, brought reflections on the current era of manga and the style of creation. He lamented that modern manga seems lost in algorithms and uniform dramaturgies, and defended artistic difference and unique identity as priorities, emphasizing that those first works of Toriyama had a lightness and playfulness that showed it is not the story that matters, but the kind of play the characters are doing. On another occasion, Torishima gave a more technical and even critical touch by stating that current mangakas have less technique. In a conference, he pointed out that Toyotaro omitted an essential ensemble shot in a battle scene, which reinforces the importance of the stylistic rigor that Toriyama always valued. In contrast with previous editions, which would often lead the audience to predictions about unheard-of transformations or arcs never explored, the 2025 edition was instead about reverence, tributes, reflections, and a sense of continuity. One of those moments was unusual and moving. French President Emmanuel Macron, a declared fan of Dragon Ball, not only filled his participation with affectionate comments, but embodied, together with Torishima, a symbolic gesture that went viral, a public Kamehameha, performed on stage, celebrated by many fans as a collective ritual of respect. This did not happen in previous expos. It was more a symbolic act than a revelation, but loaded with meaning about how Dragon Ball crossed generations and distances. In addition to the emotional tributes, Toyotaro released a special illustration in memory of Toriyama, with the phrase "Toriyama's World Forever," a visual reminder that the visual and creative spirit remains alive, like a beacon for the artists who follow this path. Despite the absence of major announcements, the setting was rich in history and meaning. Successive previous expos would have given the stage to visual revelations, brand new costumes, or fusions with new media. In 2025, the stage was reverence. Even so, what was heard were silent promises that at some point, Dragon Ball Super might return. Toyotaro assured he is working on a new personal manga, and although the Dragon Ball universe is not his priority now, he does not rule out coming back when conditions allow. Compared to the past, it was as if the expo had traded innovation for contemplation. In previous editions, fans expected panels with unpublished sketches, visual teasers of the next villain, announcements of collaborations with other franchises. None of that happened here, but there was something deeper. The collective feeling of a universe that, even without its physical creator, continues breathing through those who love it, study it, reinterpret it, and above all, protect it. The entire event, without formal topics, unfolded as a great living tribute. In every autograph session, Toyotaro drew with reverence. In every interview, he spoke with humility. Torishima, with his shrewd editorial eye, reminded that Dragon Ball was born from lightness and play, and that this is the essence to be preserved. Naketsuru, though less vocal here, completed the trio with his visual experience accumulated since DB, Z, GT, Super, and Daima, a link that connects the entire animated legacy of the franchise. In the end, Japan Expo 2025, the second since Toriyama's passing, did not bring the news that the public longed for. It brought, instead, a comforting certainty. The world he created remains alive. The tributes, the symbolic gestures, the technical reflections on artistic and narrative identity all indicate that Dragon Ball continues to be a sustainable cultural phenomenon, supported not on the mythology of one name, but on the collective impact of a story and its characters. As fans left the event, holding their autographed portfolios or hugging special illustrations, the feeling was one of commitment. Toyotaro did not place himself as heir, but as guardian. Torishima promised that artistic identity will not be compromised by the uniformity of the market, and through gestures like the collective Kamehameha conducted by Macron, we saw that Dragon Ball remains not just as a series, but as a symbol of union, inspiration, and cultural celebration, a legacy that transcends its origin and finds resonance even in the most unexpected places. Thus, this edition of the Expo will be remembered not for unheard of announcements or revealed arcs, but for being the stage of a sensitive and collective transition, one in which Dragon Ball, even invisible in the physical figure of its creator, continues present, pulsating, and protected by those who believe that its world deserves to continue existing now and forever.